Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this granny square quilt block. It's actually really easy to do, so let's jump right into it. So to make this block, you're going to need one piece for your center, 4 for the second round, 8 for the third round, and 12 for the fourth round, and then you will need 16 of your background. So to start, we'll just take our center piece and then our second round, and they will be placed like this. It's going to look like a little plus sign. This block is going to look a little wonky until we square it up at the end. But if you just watch the way I place them, everything should work out in the end if you're placing yours the exact same way as I am doing mine. You should always kind of have like the stepped edge look. And I cut all of my squares at 2.5-inch square, and then my block ended up finishing at 12, so it will finish at 11.5 once I've sewn it in. So you just want to keep placing all of your rows together until you have the layout of your block done, and then we are going to start sewing it together. It is easiest if you just lay it all out first and then sew it together. I used a fall fabric that I had bought in last year from Packwater Shop. I'm not sure if they still have it available. I will see if they do, and if they do, I will link it down below. And if you enjoy these kind of videos, I would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Alright, now that I have it all laid out the way I want it, and I know this looks a little bit weird, but it's going to work out in the end. I'm going to start sewing these rows together. I'm going to do each row individually, and then we will sew all of the rows together to make our block. And it is important to make sure that you're keeping everything in order. I have my own system, my own methods, and it's best if you figure out what works best for you and then just go and do it that way. So I have all of my rows sewn here. So now we need to sew these rows together to make our block. But this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Well, not really tricky, but it's a little bit different. As you can see, you just need to take your block here or your piece and center it as best as you can with your next row. Or you could just fold everything in half and then mark your center points. And then I just place some pins in there to hold it into place. And I'm going to pin all my rows together as much as I can and then sew them. So you want to make sure you're taking your center pieces and lining it up with your next row center piece. Otherwise it won't line up the way you need it to, and we need to have that stepped overhang look in order for it to work. And I made sure that I pressed all of my seams either towards the center or to the outside of the row because I want to make sure that all of my seams would nest, and that way I could make sure that I have a nice flat block in the end. And I am placing pins in here to hold it into place, and I don't want anything to shift. I want all of those squares to line up as good as possible. So I'm just going to finish pinning as much as I can, and I will sew my whole block together, and then I will give it a good press, and then I will show you how you need to trim it up. Alright, my whole block is sewn together. I pressed everything nice and flat, and apparently I have a fly in my room. When we trim it up, we do need to make sure that we are leaving a 1/4 inch off of every square here or every little point, because that's what we're going to need for our seam allowance later on, and you don't want to lose those points when you sew it together. So you just want to carefully line it up and then cut it and make sure that you have a 1/4 inch overhang all around. And I'm just going to do 2 sides, and then I'm going to turn it around and then do the exact same thing for the other 2 sides, lining it up and making sure that you have that 1/4 inch overhang for your seam allowance. And if you're ensuring that you have that 1/4 inch overhang on both sides when you're squaring it up, your block should turn out nice and square. So here is my block all finished and squared up. I really like the way this turned out. I think I'm going to turn this into a little throw pillow cover. I'm going to add some borders around it. I think that would look really nice for some fall decor. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for stopping by, and until next time.